Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. Andy, a massive shift in the mindset of LeBron James that could have a huge impact on the Lakers this season. We'll tell you about it next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends. But no matter how you get your podcasts or where you get your podcasts, Andy, this one's always free. It's never going to be behind a paywall. Never. No, we're not doing that to you.
Nope.
We could charge for it. Probably should.
No, we just charge Locked On. That's right. What we charge for. Let's make it clear, just in case they're listening and misunderstanding it. It's not free to them. Right. It is actually behind a paywall for them, just not you, the listener.
We pass our costs on to other people so that we don't have to pass them on to you. Do want to let people know, too, that Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you go to see the show. Today, Andy, is a very important day to be able to see the show. Many visual references that we will be making. We're going to break down. We're going to try to get into some of the forwards. We started on the guards earlier this week. We're going to start breaking down some of the non-Anthony Davis, LeBron James forwards on the team. We talked about the press conference. It was supposed to be held today with Rob Pelinka and Darvin Ham. That has been pushed back to Media Day, Monday, I believe it will be. And so that raised at least my eyebrows. But first, Andy, you and I often like to talk about how we are deeply influential.
Yeah.
Tastemakers, movers and shakers in the Lakers community. Pay attention to what we say, how we say it, and even how we look when we say those things. Because the big news on Tuesday was this from LeBron James. He has shaved his head. We will no longer be doing the, what's going on with LeBron's hairline thing that, is that dye? What is that? The whole thing is no longer going to be an issue because LeBron James, he is now one of us, one of us, one of us, one of us. And he has shaved his head. He is no longer screwing around with everything. And let me tell you, LeBron, first, I will say welcome. And I will say good for you.
There were times where it looked like he went the Carlos Boozer painted route. And just nobody was buying this. And he had reached a point where it's like, look, man, you're almost 38 years old. So you're at an age where this is somewhat to be expected anyway. But you've been pushing this for several years. You've been taking mockery. Even at times, LeBron's thrown out jokes at his own expense. Just come home, man. Come home, do the right thing. And you know what? He did it. Like you and I will both attest, the first time you recognize that it is time and that you got to do this, it's frightening.
Well, particularly I remember when I was 14. And
yeah. For people who don't know, Brian started losing his hair
in high school. It started receding. I noticed it sophomore year in high school. That is a tough draw. I have done this for much longer than it's been fashionable. This has basically been the look for 20 years, give or take. I just turned 47 earlier this month. I looked 47 when I was 27. Yes, now I think I've just grown into it. I don't think I've aged significantly in the last few years. Which says more about what I look. My wife just looked like, oh yes, you have. But it says more about what I used to look like than what I look like now. But that's not the point. I will say this: we joke. I actually think this will help LeBron. Like is it the same as, all the offseason work he does on his body to make sure he can go out and withstand the rigors of an 82 game season and the millions of dollars now I'm sure he spends on physical fitness and food and chefs and all that?
None of which apparently went towards Rogaine.
Right. Yes, it is as important as all of those things. Okay, no, it's not. But it's one less thing to worry about. Like, it is truly, genuinely liberating when you finally just say, screw it, and you shave it off. And like go back and look at Alex Caruso. Won a ring. Shave the head, won a ring.
Got paid.
Yes.
And remember, it was during that season where JaVale
LeBron
McGee
can finally get paid.
JaVale McGee famously said that he is the one, like the veteran that he was. JaVale McGee turned into like one of the most renowned veteran teammates in the NBA over like the last 5 years. Who would have thought that, with the early beginning, with all the Shaq and the Fool and, eating cinnamon by the spoonful with Nick Young, like nobody saw this coming. But JaVale McGee sat down Alex Caruso and said, you got to shave that off. You got to put the headband on. You got to adopt a look. He became the Eagle. And everything from there is history, including the Lakers failing to retain him. Right. This is all.
But to whatever extent LeBron spent any kind of mental energy worrying about what my hair was going to, and clearly he spent some.
Oh, yes, he did.
It looked different every game.
Yeah, he clearly cared.
I mean, he clearly was trying to make it look as good as possible. And it just, so I'm not saying this may. This
no more
made
half
him,
measures.
better or worse or whatever, but it occupied some part of his brain. It will not anymore. And now he can just get out there and it looks good. He's got a nice round dome.
That's the thing, though.
The nice bushy beard to go with it. I mean, it's a solid look, LeBron. I'm proud of you. I'm pleased for you. I am excited that our influence, Andy, is being directed in such a positive way. I hope we only can now help more people.
I just hope LeBron feels comfortable calling. I mean, this is new. It's something that he's not quite used to. Like, we're just a phone call away, just a DM away over Twitter, whatever, if he needs our advice. But again, good for LeBron. I also noticed something kind of quirky, but the top 5 scorers of all time in the NBA, Kareem, LeBron, Karl Malone, Kobe, Michael Jordan, all bald before their careers ended. And now with LeBron, all accepted their fates before their careers ended. Like, even if Kobe didn't bick it like he did post-career, he had certainly entered an acceptance stage. Like, he
was
cut
pulling it down.
Yeah, he cut it close enough where there was the both tacit acknowledgement and even Kobe verbally acknowledging at times, like, he was no longer fro Kobe. He used to joke about that. And what I noticed, Brian, this is a good sign for Kevin Durant, who's trying to climb that hill right now. He's about 6,000 points behind MJ for number 5,
and needs to channel his inner Frozen and let it go.
Yes, he does, because man, he's got some patches going on, particularly in the back. He's about 5,000 behind Dirk for number 6, 6,000 behind MJ for number 5. He's got that big spot that's been building for a while. And honestly, if I were him, considering the injury history, I would cover my bases and shave it all off right now.
I mean, like, look, and some people might say, well, guys, the reason that the top 5 leading scorers of all time were either all bald or near bald, is, Kareem retired when he was like 57 years old.
Kareem was patchy during like the peak of Showtime.
But you start to break these things down, like the longevity, the age. These guys all play long. I disagree. I think it is specifically that their superpower was the loss of hair.
Well, you know what it is? Keeps them pissed off.
Right.
keeps the fires going.
It's just a little bit. It's just that extra insecurity that you need.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about 4 of the all-time iconic great players, and Karl Malone, but not my favorite. But you're talking about 5 of the literal greatest scorers in NBA history, 5 no-brainer Hall of Famers. These are 5 guys with damn near everything they want at their fingertips, yet this is something they can't control. There's something they absolutely can't control, and I guarantee it added a few thousand extra points for all 5 of them.
Stars, they're just like us.
Yes,
All
they are.
right. Next, Andy, after the break, let's do this. The press conference that was supposed to be happening on Wednesday today with Darvin Ham and Rob Pelinka has been postponed until media day. I'm not saying the Lakers have been trying to pile up evidence that something is going to happen before training camp, but they keep trying to pile up evidence to make people think that something is happening before training camp. Is this meaningful, or is it just another troll? That's next.
Locked On Lakers brought to you by BetOnline, betonline.net, your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports. This season, find all the latest news for football league developments, game matchups, and podcasts. This week 2 for the NFL was just incredible.
Oh!
One of those you got to watch all the games from start to finish, particularly the end. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf, but also you can get ahead of the 2023 NBA season, and the Lakers lay down some early action there. Currently 6-point underdogs opening the season against Golden State on their ring night. Interestingly, 7-1 odds to win the West, only behind the Warriors, Clippers, and Suns. Eat their dust, Denver Nuggets.
If by interesting you mean Vegas thinks Lakers fans are stupid.
Well, that is interesting. Also, it is interesting, also totally predictable, and an annual tradition, Brian, dare I say. So head to the website today, use your mobile device, learn more about the trends in action, bet online where the game starts.
Okay. Let me walk you through it, Andy. It starts with rumors upon rumors. Kyrie Irving, for one. The Utah stuff.
Wait, hold on, Brian. You forgot Kyrie and KD.
Oh, right. That was for a minute. That was a good one. Would you trade? That was a fun hypothetical. Would you trade Anthony Davis and Russ for Kyrie and Durant? That was a fun episode. I like that one. As a thought exercise, it was had no chance of actually happening, but it was a fun thought exercise. And there's the Indiana thing. Then they traded for Patrick Beverley. Now, what we got, Andy? A surplus of guards. And then they signed Dennis Schroeder. And you know what you got now? You've got an even bigger surplus of guards. Like, way too many guards. We talked, I believe it was on Monday's show, about the tremendous number of guards that the Lakers have. And throughout all of this, the Lakers insisted that none of this had anything to do with the possibility of trading Russell Westbrook to another team.
Well, they put out those signals, we should make it clear, through media, through sources, that sort of thing. Nothing has been on the record, anything like that, other than, I guess, Darvin Ham talking up Russ,
Right.
every opportunity possible.
The Lakers, at every opportunity, have made it clear, however they're doing it, we are ready to go into the season with Russ. We believe in him in one form or another. Russell Westbrook has not requested a trade. Still my favorite. And all of these things, Andy, each time they do it, for a sector of Lakers fans, a certain portion of them, it is the functional equivalent. They hear the Beverly trade, and there goes. Lucy's got the football. Charlie Brown will go kick it now. And then the Lakers pull it away. The Lakers have signed Dennis Schroeder. Charlie Brown will go kick the football now. And then the Lakers pull it away. There was a press conference that was supposed to be happening today where Darvin Ham and Rob Pelinka were going to meet with the media and break down everything that's ahead of media day, which I believe is now set for Monday, and talk about all of this stuff. And it's been postponed. Charlie Brown, I'm going to go kick the football. Yes! Is Lucy going to pull it away from me one more time?
So you think this actually means there's something in the hopper?
I don't. But at this point, if they're not, they're kind of trolling Lakers fans, aren't they? Like, I actually respect it if they're like, let's just F with them a little bit more. You know what? Rob Pelinka, do not like the way these people talk about me. And so therefore, I'm going to think of really passive aggressive ways to indicate that Russell Westbrook is on his way out of town. I had no interest in trading for Patrick Beverley, but you know what? I did it anyway, just to tease these people. Do I really want Dennis Schroeder? No, but I want to tease these people. And now I'm going to postpone this press conference. Why? No reason at all. We totally could have had it. But I want these people to suffer because I don't like the way they talk about me. I kind of would respect that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Rob Pelinka has never struck me as an especially funny guy. In the time that we've been around him, I'm not saying he has no sense of humor. I'm just saying I've never heard him be especially funny.
Rob Pelinka is not funny.
Well, because look, there are people we know who have good senses of humor.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not necessarily funny.
Correct, but they know what to laugh at. They recognize what is funny. At best, Rob Pelinka is one of those people. Rob might find funny things funny.
Right.
He is not funny. Rob does not know how to tell a joke.
No, maybe he does. I've never heard him do it before. I mean,
I've heard him try. Like he's tried, like in public settings, and maybe he is just riotous in private. Yeah. I doubt it.
I thought about this though, because obviously there are a lot of people putting on the tinfoil hats and saying that this means that they are making serious headway on a Russell Westbrook deal, and they don't want to put themselves down taking questions about this thing when something is actually about to happen, or just they don't have time to waste. Like they don't want to take themselves away from these calls that are just continually coming in to talk to a bunch of bozos like us at El Segundo. They can do it on Monday anyway.
Excuse me, we got LeBron to shave his head. Who are you calling a bozo?
It's actually very typical, by the way, for the coach and the GM to talk ahead of media day.
This was a regularly scheduled, normal press conference that was expected to. I thought it might happen Friday. Sometimes they do it a little closer to but generally speaking, now this is how it works, where the GM and the coach will talk before media day, because it takes longer. People have more questions and stuff.
Right. It's a more intimate, sort of directed setting. So it got me thinking about. I had 4 possibilities for this, Brian, in terms of what the explanation could be. Number 1, Rob Pelinka is in fact making headway on a Russell Westbrook deal. Number 2, Rob Pelinka isn't making headway on a Russell Westbrook deal, but wants you to think he's making headway on a Russell Westbrook deal in lieu of taking questions about why he actually hasn't made headway on a Russell Westbrook deal. Number 3, Rob Pelinka would rather take tough questions in a less isolated, broader environment where he's not the central story. Like even if Darvin Ham had been there during today's planned presser, there's going to be a lot more pointed stuff at Pelinka, so he's looking to avoid it, as Rob Pelinka often does when things aren't going very well. Number 4, Rob Pelinka is just in the middle of an incredible book that he can't put down because he's either searching for a quote or an analogy for his next presser, or, Brian, it's just that damn good. Because we know Rob legitimately loves to read. He does.
He does. No, and he's very well right. This is the last weekend to trade Russ before camp opens.
LeBron's mini camp may already have started by the time people hear this. It's either the 21st or the 22nd.
I think it's going on. Yeah. I mean,
Cole Swider let that out on his podcast.
Right.
That's not a joke, by the way.
I know.
Cole Swider actually did break this because he's a rookie with a podcast and doesn't realize he's not supposed to say these things.
Oh, Cole Swider.
Look, and all joking aside,
probably he's not really getting traded before Monday, is he?
Look, he could be, he might not be. I think it's just a reminder, something that I'd said, I believe it was on Tuesday's show. This is going to feel fluid, the roster, until the trade deadline has passed, because it's always going to feel like the Lakers are searching to move Russell Westbrook, because in all likelihood, they probably are looking to move Russell Westbrook. So nothing is, even if you open camp and open the season with Westbrook on the roster, it's not going to feel settled until we've passed the time where he can be moved. It just isn't.
No, it's true.
Even if he's playing well, it probably won't.
No, because it's the overarching.
Well, that's where his
theme
trade
of the
value goes
season.
up.
The Lakers finally get some leverage. All right, so we needed like 3 segments earlier in the week to get through the guards because there are 63 of them to talk about. We can get through probably some of the non-star forwards in terms of thinking about what to expect from the rest of the roster and position groups. We could probably do that in about 5 minutes because there are only 3 of them. One of whom, and we'll tell you which one, we forgot in our initial list. So we'll talk about it next. So our sincere apologies to Wenyen Gabriel, because when we were talking about let's preview the forwards who are not the non-centers, who are not and the non-stars, what to expect from LeBron, what to expect. That's like just a normal show. But we're not going to spend necessarily as much time talking about Troy Brown. So we were like, let's talk about Troy Brown. What about Juan Toscano-Anderson? We're like, yeah, okay, well, they're the forwards. And 5 minutes before we started, I'm making the list of things. I was like, oh, Wenyen. We forgot about Wenyen. And I think that's in part because A, he's not necessarily expected to play a huge role for the team this year. B, his contract isn't guaranteed. So I think that's the assumption from a lot of people is he is somebody who might actually get cut to sign, I don't know, presumably another guard. I'm not sure.
Or included in some type of
deal
because
to add $1 million to or whatever it is. Or if the Lakers get back 3 players for one and they need to trade, they need to, that Gabriel has the most tenuous position on the team, which by the way is certainly probably true. The flip side of that is, Andy, it is hard to cut one of your only players who's over 6'5".
Well, he's the tallest of the 3 guys we're about to get into by 3 inches. Troy Brown Jr. and Juan Toscano-Anderson, both 6'6". Wenyen Gabriel 6'9".
But like in all seriousness, when you look at these guys, because we talked at length about the guards and how the Lakers deploy the guards has a direct influence on what we're going to see from this group of players, small forward and power forward. It's certainly, and we'll get to the centers in Damian Jones and Thomas Bryant later this week, because the Lakers rudely canceled the press conference that was supposed to give us enough content to get through the rest of the week. Talk about Charlie Brown pulling the football away. What do you expect from this group? I'm not like, because I could see, because of the way the roster is constructed, all 3 of these guys having a very minimal impact depending on how things play out and what Darvin chooses to do and how small they have to run.
I don't know. I mean, in certain respects, I could see maybe not all 3 of them, but 2 of the 3 having legitimate roles in the rotation between their size, between their, defensive either skills or at very least desire. All 3 of them are willing to focus on that and put in, on that end and put in the work, that sort of stuff. And, they are a rarity on this roster, like being 6'6" to 6'9" and being guys who are legitimate forwards. Again, not counting LeBron, not counting AD. That is a serious and I argue dangerous rarity on this roster.
Right.
So
it also, not to really cut you off, but like it also does sort of naturally limit the amount that those guys can play. Anyway, it's like, there aren't 38 minutes a night for Juan Toscano-Anderson.
No, but I mean, like in terms of them having roles as opposed to the team going guard heavier and smaller and, looking to automatically use Austin Reeves as a 3 as much as possible, or looking for, 3 guard sets even coming off the bench, or LeBron and AD maybe playing a few extra minutes than you might expect, like stuff like that. I don't know how it's going to shake out, because with all 3 of them, there are, I think, broad, if not necessarily the same, limitations offensively. Like, Wenyen Gabriel, for example, actually last season, very small size theater, and contextually there became a point of who cares. But his offensive numbers actually on this team were quite good. in terms of what he was asked to do and what he did, but he's nonetheless still a very limited offensive player. Juan Toscano-Anderson, Troy Brown Jr. are also pretty limited in what they can do offensively. Before we get into, though, Brian, what they do, what they don't do, and what could maybe break some ties, I just discovered on the Lakers official website, because I was looking up the measurements on these guys, just because I wanted to double check, and I was correct that Troy Brown Jr. and Juan Toscano-Anderson are basically the same size, basically the same weight, even though I think Toscano-Anderson is thought of as bigger.
He's thought of more as a 4, and Troy Brown's thought of more as a 3.
Right, but they're actually, Troy Brown's actually listed about 5 pounds heavier. But I discovered that the Lakers
saw the letters on the back of Toscano-Anderson's jersey that makes him look heavier.
They have little captions describing all 3 of these guys that I found delightful and wanted to share. A youthful Troy Brown Jr. brings 4 seasons of competitive play under his belt to Los Angeles. Hungry to grow, Brown Jr. can utilize his 6'11 wingspan and a quick first step to fit Coach Ham's fast-paced defensive strategy. The second player of Mexican descent to win an NBA title comes south, looking to make more history with purple and gold. This, of course, being Juan Toscano-Anderson. Along with a versatile skill set both in the paint and on the perimeter, the 29-year-old forward will add a lively presence to the Laker locker room. And then finally, brought on late last season, Wenyen Gabriel was an instant spark plug to the Lakers offense. The 25-year-old forward used his powerful, springy talent and added depth to the team's front court presence. I love those. Those are great.
It's very sweet. It's nice. They sound like the little blurb you get in like a playbill if you go see something on Broadway. It also reads a little bit like, in lieu of actual accomplishments, here's what we're going to say about them. Troy Brown can use his 6'11" wingspan. He hasn't necessarily over the course of his career yet, but he can. There's like each guy has kind of its own if. Like Wenyen is very specific. If guys get hurt, obviously, or you need energy, you need hustle, you need something. He's deployed in very specific circumstances.
And he's the only of the 3 that you can really, I think, reasonably use as a backup center. I know JTA's done it.
Small ball 5, a legitimate size as a power forward or whatever. Like if you use him, if he's playing a lot, it's probably a bad sign.
Yeah.
But
works his ass off, got a great attitude.
Love that. Really happy to have him on the team.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great 14th or 15th guy.
Really bright dude.
You know exactly what you're going to get, but limited. Troy Brown, there is a direct correlation to how well he shoots the 3 and how much he's going to play. Let's assume the defense, which I don't know is completely safe to do. He has had moments where his defensive numbers are good. He has had moments, sort of where they look a little more spotty. He's also played for some really lousy teams, and it's hard to be a good defender on a bad team. But the other issue is he's sort of, I guess they signed him as a 3-and-D type guy. He's not hyper athletic. And all that kind of stuff. He needs to make those 3s, or it's going to be hard again especially if they're going to bump some of those 2s down to the small forward position, play small ball, or whatever it is, or in those moments where you have a center on the floor, bump LeBron or whatever it might be back up to the 3. There's not a lot of minutes there necessarily. He's going to have to make 3-pointers. Toscano-Anderson, obviously the shooting is going to matter. I think it's more about how much did the Lakers end up valuing the sort of connective stuff. Like when we did the scouting
Great that
report,
you brought that up.
Yeah, the scouting report on Toscano-Anderson, it was particularly like, 20 minutes. Like you don't want him for more than 20 minutes. It's what do you do with him? He's a little like a front court version of Austin Reeves. So what do they want from that? How does that fit in with small ball lineups? How does that fit in with the reserve lineups? I think if they find a lot of utility there, he's going to play a lot more because he'll be reliable defensively, in similar to Reeves in the sense that they'll be in the right spot, they'll do the right thing, and he will make the right play. So do they need that? I don't know. Depends on what lineups they keep trotting out there.
It's interesting you bring up making the play. One thing that jumped out at me looking at JTA's numbers, the passing numbers suggest somebody who can help the offense, even without necessarily juicing it directly, because his offensive rating and stuff like that was not very good, although it can be difficult in certain respects depending on when you're used comparatively to have some of the offensive numbers that other guys on this team have. But
right, and to say it's not like he was certainly last year was not relied on.
But here's the thing that jumped out at me: it's the passing numbers. Like his assist percentage, the only Warriors per Basketball References metrics with a higher percentage, with more minutes played than him, were Steph, Draymond, Jordan Poole, and Bielitsa, of all people. Per cleaning the glass, his assist percentage was in the 88th percentile for his position, but in the 98th percentile in assist percentage per usage rate. So, in other words, he's very good at making the most of his time as a passer in limited time. He spent more time last season as a 4 than a 3 in terms of some of the breakdowns I saw, and his numbers were
I think on this team he functions much more as a 4 than a 3.
And they were better as a 4, particularly defensively, and that could be his spot for the taking off the bench, if there's enough shooting around him. And then it was interesting because I looked at Troy Brown Jr.'s numbers at the 4, because as I noted before, he hasn't been talked about that way, but they're the same size. And granted, this is with me not having a ton of context on this because I was not able to watch entire season of Wizards or Bulls the last couple years.
Oh, why would you?
But certainly last season, his numbers were considerably worse, particularly defensively, as a 4 than a 3.
He's much more. I think he's got more length, but I think he is thought of. And certainly has played more as a 2-3.
Yeah, I can't tell you
the 3-4.
I can't tell you the
which,
why.
by the way, is another flaw of this roster. It's like it's not all wing guys. It's like there are 2-3s, and then there are straight, I guess, guys who can go 3-4. And the Lakers are real short on the 3-4 types.
But I just found that interesting in the sense of how these guys could potentially, make themselves stand out, provide that utility. I mean, with Troy Brown too, it's not just that he has to make threes at a slightly higher clip. He needs to just take more. Like he needs to act. Both these guys, Juan Toscano-Anderson,
take and make.
Yeah, Juan Toscano-Anderson and Troy Brown Jr., like per 36 combined last year, averaged less than 20 field goal attempts per game.
Right.
Like,
and Toscano-Anderson as a 3-point shooter was 40% 2 seasons ago, 32% the season before, and in a very small sample size, 35. So is he a 35 guy? Is he a 36 guy? Is he a 33 guy? All that makes a difference.
They both need to, I think, as much, they need to be productive offensively, but they also need to be looking to announce their presence, I think, a little bit more offensively as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, this will come up when we talk about the centers as well. Like, how the Lakers decide whether or not they have to play all 6 of these guards, figure out ways to get them in the lineup, sort of feel like they have to shoehorn, and understandably, because that's where a lot of the talent on the roster is. It's not unjustifiable. It's not all just political. That's where a lot of the good players are. But the ripple effect from that directly impacts the questions that we're asking here. And, how much do we see Thomas Bryant? How much do we see Damian Jones? Locked On Lakers on YouTube, Andy, is not impacted by any of those decisions. You can watch that no matter what. You can help us push past 8,000 subscribers, which we hope you will. Getting so close. So that is all I have to say about those things. And we will be back next time. Thank you.